Hi, and welcome to IndigiTECH virtual panels. My name is Art Proctor, and I welcome you all today to this conversation. I'm currently residing in Mohkinstsis, Treaty 7 territory, Aotearoa Island, aka Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I just want to acknowledge that I live, work, and play on Treaty 7 territory, and want to acknowledge the Treaty 7 nations of Piikani, Siksika, Kainai, Stoney Nakoda, and the Blackfoot Nation. Also want to acknowledge that we are in the ancestral home of Métis Region 3 in southern Alberta. Today we have a good group of colleagues here that's going to be talking about various subjects. And so I'm going to pass the mic over to my colleague and friend, Patrick Kitchen. Take it away, Patrick.
Hi there, I'm Patrick. I acknowledge the Indigenous traditional territories represented by Treaty 6 and 7 as the land and city of Red Deer is situated on. This land is also acknowledged by the city as an historic Métis gathering site. I am happy to represent the iSparx team today, a bold and premium digital immersive media company with its global roots in New Zealand, headed by Indigenous artivist Geoff Ray and his creative team of Lost Boys, represented today by Finn Beattie, CO, the extended network headed by myself, out of Red Deer, and supported by producer Art Proctor in Calgary.
Hi, and welcome, and thank you for that. If we may hop over to Geoff and Finn. Geoff, take it away.
Kia ora. My mountain is Taranaki. My river is Waitara. And my hapu is Pukitapu, and my waka was Aotearoa, yeah, I'm Aotearoa and Taranaki tribes of New Zealand on the west coast of North Island, and I preside here in Pauatahanui, Porirua, in Wellington in New Zealand, or Aotearoa. Yeah, and my colleague here is Finn Beattie.
Yeah, hi. I was born in Tauranga, and I've since moved to Auckland, Taranaki, and now reside in Wellington alongside Geoff. Primarily Pākehā, and sort of family roots go back to a spread of European countries, effectively. Although most of our extended family consider ourselves now to be Pākehā or New Zealand European.
Well, thank you for that, and for those introductions, and for those acknowledgements to the land, which I believe is extremely important, and we should actually adhere to more often than not, because land-based knowledge is everything, and to me anyway. And so, Geoff, tell me a little bit about yourself and your origins of iSparx and the multiple projects that you guys are working on, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, iSparx was an accident in a lot of ways. We were working on a couple of projects in the National Museum here, Te Papa, and we were capturing taonga. Taonga's the treasures that are held in, and it was quite an interesting sort of process, because it was new. We were capturing them as 3D objects, but what we discovered was that the objects actually held a mana and a presence. There was a personage to our work and our artwork, and I think it's as I understand it, it's very similar to yourselves in Turtle Island, that our artworks have a presence, and so we developed a process of capture that involved respect for that. we were confronted with the idea of copyright. We don't have copyright on these objects, on the taonga. It's a thing called kaitiaki, and it means guardian or the keeper. So the museums don't own the objects, and so there's straight away there's an interesting issue of copyright. There is none. So we had to explore how we could protect that copyright, or that ownership, or that lack of ownership, actually. We built these objects, and we applied them to some artworks and augmented reality, and it was quite interesting because we showed those pieces at a very prestigious event at Aotearoa in Winnipeg. It was Winnipeg University, as AR objects, AR taonga, as we call them. And the idea of AR taonga art became a bit of a thing for us, and we sort of started to move away from commercial ideas and development, and stuck to this idea of Indigenous art, and so that's progressed until we're now working on interactivity in that commercialization, in that non-commercial Indigenous realm of technology. So yeah, that's pretty much the basis of it. I mean, Patrick can probably tell us more about how we're bringing that technology to Canada, but we're not really bringing it. You guys are actually absorbing us, and it's that's another idea of, I think, that is part of that Indigenous thinking. So yeah, that's Patrick can tell you about how we're doing that.
Patrick?
Yeah.
Last night.
Thanks, John. Well, there's a lot of stuff that a lot of digital creative that has been happening in Canada from an Indigenous perspective. And at the moment, it's very diverse and very separated. So the idea of bringing something like iSparx to Canada, where we can actually start to pull some of those projects together and have them have a bit more voice going forward, I think is going to be a very exciting place to be. Plus, it's a great catch-all for some of the really sort of higher end digital type projects that we want to sort of go after here. But also have it be a forward-facing Indigenous owned company that isn't specifically just managing Indigenous creative. So being a real powerhouse in this creative realm at the level that they're at, in a space that has generally been ignored or lack of Indigenous representation.
Yeah, I think I can add to that. That one of the things that we found while we were exploring this stuff was there was an entrepreneur in residence, a really nice, well-meaning, quite wealthy white woman, and Te Papa, who said to us, these people need to understand that this is a Pākehā technology, which I actually found kind of amusing. The fact that we were actually applying this stuff and to quite uniquely to this technology, to these to the subject, that in that we were actually applying what we call Mautaranga Māori, which means Māori knowledge, and so and extend that a bit, it becomes Indigenous knowledge, and it's so we're actually applying it to this, and it's quite unique. Now, commercially, that has an interest as well. If we're looking after objects in such a careful manner, with all of the other considerations like digital sovereignty, brands will take notice of that too. They want there are commercial brands, especially in Asia, that are interested in what we're doing. We're getting interest out of Asia actually at the moment. So there's another thing, is that some of the stuff that we're doing, we're approaching it from an artistic point of view, not a commercial point of view, as I said before, and but with those Indigenous values underlying it. And so one of the projects we're doing at the moment, which Finn can speak to, is the Aotearoa. The hashtag is We Are the Mainstream. Aotearoa is the waterways and the streams. It's a personage. But we've turned him into a 3D character. He's a little sort of ticky kind of character. We're setting him as a 3D object on all of the major media houses in New Zealand. And when we first did it, we thought that the media houses would see it as a challenge. What we call a whittle. You might be familiar with you see a Māori warrior with a taiha, and he lays down a challenge, and what we didn't consider to start with was that someone could see that as an honor to be challenged, and the the media houses have, I just remember Bob Marley getting challenged at the airport, and he was really excited and picking this thing up, and it's all part of that process of being welcomed in, and the media houses have taken to it. So it's we wouldn't have got there if we hadn't approached it in that artistic manner, so yeah, it's I mean, that's just I think Finn can tell you what we've actually been doing there technically. Yeah, can you explain what the little guy's been doing, what Aotearoa's been doing?
Yeah. I'd just like to mention too that so we're working on that with the artist Hohepa Thompson under his artist name the Hori, which is in of itself a bit of a challenge. If you're not aware, word Hori was a bit of a derogatory slur used in New Zealand historically about Māori, but he's taken it on as a pseudonym or as a project name to address ethical and cultural and social problems in New Zealand as an artist. So naturally, we like him quite a bit. So we've been working with him on this Aotearoa project, and what we've been doing technically is we've got a 3D model of Aotearoa rigged, and we're putting him virtually in augmented reality outside or on top of these media houses. So in some cases this means he's outside by the front door. In some cases that means he's on top of the roof, but we've positioned him there using site-specific location mapping technology, and the idea is users of an app will be able to look at the site and see Aotearoa waiting or attempting to gain an entrance. What we've done is we've actually gone to Weta Studios with Hori, and we've done motion capture. So we're applying Hori's own movements and acting to the Aotearoa character to convey that character and convey the kind of the mood that we're wanting to have. Now that media houses are accepting the challenge, the idea is that we'll be positioning Aotearoa inside the buildings now as well in a different capacity, and that whole thing there'll be some functionality there, some features that are interactable by people who work at those companies, and there's a level of cultural accountability that this is really supposed to be working towards. So what we're wanting to do here is just like leverage the technology and leverage the sort of the social and artistic position that you sort of have with art to do edgier stuff and sort of push that kind of agenda a little bit.
Well, thank you. That was very enlightening and interesting. If I may ask you a question, this is open for everybody's 2 cents review. How to reconcile digital transformation and technology with traditional knowledge and practice of the Maori teaching? Is anybody, or Patrick, in regards to First Nations or Turtle Island stuff, or take a spin of that, if that just triggers you on another path or idea, go to town. Anybody? Or did I
I might,
stop everybody?
kick in there just to start it. Because this is how Patrick and I first met. Is that we were asking those questions, and what we came back to was the underlying issues that before you even get into that, before you even get into the issues of the digital technology and such, it was that authentication, Patrick, and the idea of we've sort of been looking at post-colonization. Does it actually exist? And so there's a part of us that works on the whole idea of questioning things at an art level, and then there's a part of us that works on the technology that addresses that. And so what Patrick came up with, and this is where we started to work together, was on authentication, and a project called IndigiTECH Me. I'll leave that to you, because I mean, we're even talking about IndigiTECH as well, and the fact that we're asking those questions on a regular basis, and constantly reapplying them to what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, through IndigiTECH, which is a fantastic organization out of Vancouver that puts together national, international Indigenous representatives to work on items like policy conversations and stuff. One of the big questions that we started with that put together a really diverse group for us was about authentication in communication arts. And what is necessary, what is needed to have that kind of conversation. It was based off of a pre-existing program that Canada had in the Arctic, in terms of trying to find representation for Inuit art. And so IndigiTECH Me was born sort of based off of that concept. And then extended to not just visual arts, but also digital communication arts and graphic arts, and especially at the agency level. And the big question of what is authenticity, and that currently in the Canadian market, or the Canadian news and conversation, is quite a big topic, being represented in a lot of different ways here. And nobody has a simple answer to it.
No, but I think that's where we start to explore that. We've been working on authentication of taonga from the early days at Te Papa, which was, and so and we were looking at blockchain now. The whole idea of blockchain, Web3, it's just another progression of how we interact or deal with that technology. And it's the same. I think you brought up the spectrum in earlier conversations, Art, and we're working in 5G and looking at 6G. And it's so what we're talking about right now is how do we apply those technologies to stuff that's and for us it's primarily art. That's how we can explore it, because recently we covered a talk on a famous guy over here called Dr. Moana Jackson, and he was talking about the sort of whole idea of post-colonialism and how do we rebuild this, without replacing one empire with a new empire. Who's going to police that sort of that new construct? And his conclusions were creatives. So art and creativity are really important to the way we approach this technology, these technologies, especially as Indigenous people. So yeah, we don't want to come at this again with a view, a lawyer class view. It's nothing against lawyers. I've got friends that are lawyers. My sister's a lawyer.
So your best friends are lawyers.
Yeah, Is that my hand in my pocket, or is that? Yeah, but there's it's that the creators and the artists should be leading this, and I'm not an artist, just so for everybody to know that you know, we work with artists. Yeah, that's who we should be turning to. I think that's my opinion, is that we should be turning to the artists as Indigenous people. We should be turning to our artists and our creators to ask those questions.
But I think Tommy's comment is very key to what we're doing. His comment about we are the mainstream. We're not an afterthought. What we're doing is mainstream. And it's not meant to be looked at as, we're not looking for a space in the digital realm to showcase our work and showcase our ideas. We're already there. And we've been there for a lot longer than a lot of people give us credit for. So I think that
just to clarify, so you know that what Patrick's referring to is a good friend of mine, Tommy Iti. He just turned 70 this year, but he's been protesting with art for many years. I mean, we celebrated 50 years since he set a tent up on the front lawn of Parliament here, and called it the Māori Embassy. You know, he's just been given he was in jail 10 years ago as a suspected terrorist. And then last year this year he was given the highest award as an art laureate for New Zealand art. You know, he's an amazing man, and he's the guy who actually came up. That's right, he came up with that statement, "We are the mainstream," because a reporter said to him, "What about the mainstream?" You know, and he turned around and says, "We are the mainstream." And Hori picked up on that. And that's what Ōrākei is all about. So this is exactly it, man. I mean, how are we getting to these questions? We're getting to them through artists. We're getting through them through art. We need to hold our artists up, you know. So yeah.
So
No,
art and technology is vital to community, and they are not old or new. They are status quo that have gone. There's been a through point from the start of creation to now in regards to Indigenous perspective and knowledge. Do you have anything to add, Finn?
Not to that specifically, no. I think it's been covered pretty well. That dynamic between art and culture as a form of checks and
I've got a
balances
question.
in a way.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So working with artists is far more fun than commercial stuff, right?
Oh yeah. Not always easier, but definitely more fun.
Yeah.
most definitely.
They covered their own challenges for sure.
Is there anything that any of you gentlemen like to speak to wrap this very enlightening and insightful kind of conversation up? Is there an outro, Patrick, Joff, or Finn, that you would like to leave the viewers or the participants with? And how do they get in touch with you? How do they get to know a little bit more about you? All that kind of stuff.
I'll start with the part where they get in touch with us. So just give you a call, Art, because you know who we are.
Yeah, good. There you go.
And thanks, man. Really appreciate. We don't get off. We sit in the background quite often. We don't get to. You know, we're not. That's why we're not very eloquent in this sort of environment. But yeah, really appreciate having a voice through you. Thanks, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Last words, Patrick?
I think that outro, the statement I just made about us being the mainstream, I think that is the outro. I think the reality is that digital is just another tool for us to continue to have our dialogue that we've had all along.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Much love and appreciation. Willian, which is thank you in Mi'kmaq. And we'll talk to you another time, another place. Be well.
Kia ora.
You too.
Whoops.